today we are having a look at something new and exciting.
It's the eagerly awaited, especially by me,
Hi guys, Brett here from Hearns Hobbies, and I am joined by Tony P, and today we are having a look at something new and exciting. What have we got, mate?
it's the eagerly awaited, especially by me, the RC Maker SP1.
The SP1 RC Maker. Now this is not something that we sell here at Hearns, but it is pretty much a revelation in Australian RC, isn't it? There's no beating. This is an Australian manufactured high performance RC kit.
It is.
And that comes out of the stables of RCMAKER. He's very successful on the world stage as an Australian driver. He's been importer and team driver for VBC, then on to Automatics, and now he's sort of doing it all his own way, and he's made his very own car under the RC Maker brand that we all know and love, and the SP1. And there's two of them. There's actually the SP1 and the SP1F. Is that right?
The fronty.
And the front wheel drive TCR. And you'd have to be crazy to have both of them.
Would you?
But you do.
You do. I do.
Okay,
yes.
Series 1, Release 1.
That's
this is out in the first shipment. Yeah, so really
First
proud. Here at Hearns, we're really proud of Ryan at RC Maker, the Australian manufacturer. So we thought we'd get Tony in and have a closer look at his build and some very unique features of this car. So you built this thing, and you've built many things. You've been racing for umpteen years now. What did you notice about this car?
It's very different to any other car that I've built. There haven't been a lot of corners cut in getting this put out there. Everything's pretty much designed for a purpose and optimized. It's a touring car, but yeah, everything's just fit and finish is really nice. It all goes together super.
Can you drive it upside? If it wasn't for the front body posts,
if it wasn't for the front body post,
you could drive it upside down.
The spur gear might hold you back a bit, but yeah, I think the spur gear is about the highest point without the wheels on it.
How cool is that?
It's pretty impressive.
And you have built this up in mod spec, so it's got a 5.5 turn in there at this stage. Looks like 110 spur gear, so it uses what I'll call a conventional spur. Which is good because you can run bigger pinions, get more tooth, because they can actually be really hard and aggressive on spur gears and pinions, just through the sheer grunt in mod class that we're faced with. But some of the unique design features of this car, I mean, they're not just like one-stop gimmicks, is it? Sort of, he's thought completely out of the box. And I suppose the biggest convention, it's four-wheel drive, it's belt drive, so equal length belts, I'm assuming front and rear.
Correct.
What we got here, we've got a mid-mount spur gear, what we refer to as a mid-mount layout with the motor. So to get that moment of force right in the middle of the chassis, so it's not near the rear acting like a pendulum. Gives the car really, really good change of direction and corner speed at the end of the day. But what he has done, and what the car is probably going to be most recognised for, is in fact laid down the shock absorbers, hasn't he? I'm just trying to get it on camera here, see the best angle that we can do.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference. If you look at the drivetrain, it looks pretty similar. The top arms, the bottom arms all look fairly standard, but the suspension is way lower than anything else, so the weight of the shocks and everything is really low. It's just above the bottom of the chassis.
Isn't it? It's just hard near to get in the zoom, just the angle of the car. But have a look here. So I've got what is effectively the right rear shock, and I'm just compressing it from the wheel, and have a look how that bell crank is acting. So it's sort of compressing the shock, if you will, at both ends, isn't it?
Yeah. It's almost like F1 style suspension, where you've got the push rod coming back from the wheel and pushing onto a shock, except that the shock is actually laying down along the arm behind it instead of inside the chassis.
That's right, that's right. And I'm sure it's got top level shock absorbers on it. So we're having a look here. So the shock and spring assembly all looks very well machined and hard anodized, of course. And this is the metal bell crank, and what I love here is he's actually gone for his own unique flavour. I suppose it's hard in a world of oranges and golds and reds and stuff like that. He's done something that is not done very often, and it's bronze.
Bronze, rose gold. A few people call it different things, but yeah.
It's got a nice thing to it.
It's different.
You like it?
I love it.
You have to.
Yeah.
You're falling in love with it.
Yes, absolutely. When I saw the prototype that he ran at the VIX,
yep,
that was it. Done.
You had to have
Sold.
one. And some of the other features that are unique to this car, you'll have to talk me through it because I haven't built it and seen it. This is the first time I've seen one.
So the other significant thing that's different to any other car is we've got the upper deck, which is about halfway up compared to a standard TC. So you can actually see that this is the belt here. That's the actual upper deck there. It's about halfway down between the belt and the bottom of the chassis. So
usually they're sort of level pegged, aren't they?
Yeah, they're just below the belt normally.
Yep.
And sitting level with the top of the bulkheads behind the wheel here.
Yep.
So normally that would just come straight off there and go into the motor mount in the middle there.
But he's actually got like a mid-mount top deck.
Yeah.
And what is that, do you think, what's that adding, or how is that different other than aesthetically?
Just keeps everything lower.
Yep.
One thing I found that was a lot better than the alternative was that it's a lot easier to wire the ESC without binding up on the tower. With the X4 that I was running before, because you had the upper deck a bit higher, the ESC wires would hit that, and you're always worried whether it's going to be impacting tweak and flex and whatever else.
Yep.
So this way, everything's just clear of everything. There's nothing hitting, which is great considering it's so low. It's just the right amount of low, I think.
Just the right amount of low. I don't know how much low is, but it's just the right amount.
That's right.
And it has a somewhat conventional now molded upper arms.
Yep.
Which I'm no doubt he will probably release an adjustable upper arm as an option.
Potentially, yeah.
And underneath here, looking at the lower arm, we're going with the very popular, has been for quite some time, the solid carbon arm. Right? And off here, he's got metal inserts for the shock absorber and rocker assembly, and also the sway bar. Is that right?
Yeah, the sway bar and the shock mount onto the same alloy piece.
Yep.
So the sway bar's got a little ball stud that hangs off the side.
Yep.
And then you've got the ball stud here for the shock on the back.
That's good. And what that does, mounts it out and low.
Yeah, and keeps everything out of the way. So everything is almost flush with the bottom there.
And ordinarily I would have had concerns for the sway bar hanging out in the breeze and stuff like that, but I know that Yokomo's done it now for the past 3 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's been pretty successful. Like you can break it and damage it, but you've usually broken and damaged more.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It's not just from hitting curbs and racing, it's from being airborne and crashing.
Yeah.
While we're having a look under here, I like this rear bumper. That's a standard.
That's standard part, yeah. Yep. So it comes with a little bumper, which not many cars have.
And obviously that's protecting a little bit more than usual because you've got the whole, you really want to look after your shocks and everything at the back there.
It's pretty good actually, because I know in the X-Ray, if you get punted from the back, you can start shredding a bit of the chassis around here because the screws on the back are really,
right
at the back. Or bend because there's not much meat behind it.
Yep.
There's actually quite a bit more here, which is great. And you've got the bumper.
You got the bumper, and another thing that we can notice here is it's actually got high quality fasteners.
Yes, yes.
So I wouldn't say that he would have cheap second-rate fasteners, but these look like high tensile units.
Yeah, yeah. And no corners were cut with this kit. I think everything is there for a purpose. Like it's just what needs to be there. I think there's no.
It's got metal inserts in the carbon arms here.
Yes, yeah. There's what are they called? Little metal threaded inserts that press into the carbon, and as you screw them in, they press right in, like the old drones used to do. That's where I first saw them. I hadn't seen these before, but drones used to come with those.
And looking at the sway bar here, you've got this little. I know that the Yokomo, for example, uses O-rings, but this looks like a piece of solid. What's going on here? That
looks like a 3D printed piece that shims or spaces the sway bar correctly.
Yep.
So it doesn't flop around and move around too much. But the quality on that piece, given how small it is, and I do a fair bit of 3D printing, that is just amazing how good they're printed. Like the little hole where the sway bar goes through, you just push the sway bar in and it just pops through, and yeah, it's fantastic.
Now obviously we've got what you would call symmetrical chassis milling here.
Yes.
So it keeps the flex characteristics. It's not a new thing.
No.
So it does only in fact mount the spur gear in one spot, but they have 2 slots, so you've got equal chassis flex. Got a classy bit of laser engraving. It's probably stuck it on his laser engraver. Yeah.
Or no, probably
router?
CNC router,
CNC?
I think. Yeah, with a
It's got his SP1
engraving
in there.
bit.
And then we come up towards the front end again. We've got the very similar sway bar mounts, carbon arms. Now the carbon arms are different front and rear, is that right?
That's correct, yeah. There's a little bit of a difference to the shape on the outside.
Yep.
And I believe the fronts are slightly longer as well.
Okay, so it's got a slightly different track or just different geometry?
I think it's just more to do with the way the shock's mounted because of the steering and the movement that needs to be there. It just gives it a little bit more clearance.
Yep. You've missed a screw.
I know, I have.
I don't want to point anything out.
I know.
And
I'm still setting it all up. I've only built it. I've still got to set it up properly.
And again, I just actuate the shocks here. Yeah. So the front shock's also laying down horizontally. Yeah, pretty much symmetry with the rear. It's flipping the car over now. I wanted to have a look at the steering and bell crank because it's got some weird sort of geometry in there in my mind. We'll just see if I can get the...
Yeah, I think they're all a little bit different. Everyone has their own theory. I know people that go out of their way to make everything perfectly symmetrical.
Yeah.
I don't know if that does anything. Like, once you've programmed your endpoints and you've tuned it left and right and you've got the same throw, as long as your servo's linear, I don't know how much extra benefit other than in your own head. But that's my personal thing.
Square.
So, yeah.
Does the instructions say to set the servo horn up square?
No.
No. Because I know another Russian brand that also the first time I saw that was from them.
Yeah.
And I had never built a car and set a car up like that. Yeah. And like you said, in doing so, I never had an issue to think otherwise. Yeah. People who were a lot smarter and paid a lot more money than me come up with these ideas and this geometry. Yeah. Who am I to go and say that it's crap?
I mean, you can, like if you get an offset servo horn and move it forward a little bit, you can space it out. There's plenty of meat on the actual ball stud there to actually move it forward a bit more as well.
Well, that would be my concern looking at it. I'm just going to, let's get back in focus here if we can. Is just how the angle that it's pulled forward or pulled back towards the servo. Yeah. But if that's the way that he has done it, because you can see there that it's obviously fairly level, and then dare say at the other end point, it's level as well. Yeah. Yeah. So that ranging arc movement would seemingly not be a concern.
I mean, like I said, you can move it forward. I don't think it'll matter, but I don't think it makes a difference there either, personally.
Yep.
If anything, you might get a little bit more leverage where it is being there, but I don't know.
And it has a fairly conventional servo mount where it's just mounted in the center point from underneath. What, 2 screws, 3 screws?
2 screws in the bottom. There's 2 pins that locate it on the chassis.
Yep.
And 2 screws from the bottom. There's no movement of that.
Yeah. And the bell crank is all very familiar, mounted to the chassis. Yep. Whereas the Yokomo now, they actually have their bell cranks mounted off their servo.
Okay. Yep.
It comes with the MS1, but a lot of the team drivers we found in Australia actually go back to this setup from the previous. Same geometry, just a different flex characteristic.
I've seen something like that before. I can't remember whether it was a TRF. A long time ago, and they did the same thing, and everybody effectively defaulted back to mounting it on the lower, on the bottom plate, just because you then end up with all the weight down low anyway. So. And
then just looking at it, it's got very little in the way of slop and float in the steering and the driveline. Talking of the driveline, I suppose we're looking at the spool, and he's got his the phases of the drive shafts exactly 180 degrees to each other, which would make sense, and they are the ball bearing type. Yep. Obviously, sort of made. I'm not sure if the Russian AMX manufacturer was the first to sort of.
Maybe I'm not 100% familiar with the AMX.
The first car that they used to come with bushes, and the bearings were an option.
Okay.
But later kits and stuff like that, the bearings were all standard fitment.
So. I know with the X-Ray that I've been running before, it's all been standard out of the box with that one, but yeah, I don't know who started that one because. Yeah.
And then we've got the double, as Tony Gray.
The double Kardashian.
The double Kardashian, the double Kardashian front drive shaft.
Yeah.
In here.
Yeah. I don't
Again,
think you can get a car without it these days, can you? A high-end car.
Well, the RS2 does come with single CV.
The RS2.
Yeah, RS 2.0.
Okay.
Yeah, high-end car.
High end.
Yeah.
The other end of the scale.
That's right, the other end of high-end. So yeah, and actually, Yokomo have actually just released these for the off-road buggy.
Okay.
They generally don't have them in off-road, but yeah, and I can see probably in carpet or traction, probably in dirty, dusty conditions, it's probably not going to be
ideal.
Super ideal or noticeable, but if you're running on Astro or carpet, maybe indoor, would probably make a difference. Yeah. See if I can have a look in here at the steering block. So we've got the little, very familiar body support. Yep. Can't really get in here. Well, let's
take the wheel off.
Let's whip the wheel off. Oh, you've got some lovely wheels on there too. What are these sweeps?
Yeah.
Hey, and these are going to be good.
Yeah. Very nice.
Nice wheel nuts.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell me about the wheel nuts?
No, they're just off-the-shelf wheel nuts. One thing with this car,
yes,
it is a high-end kit.
Yes.
It's not for the faint-hearted. It's not for your first-time build. That's my opinion anyway. Everything is there for a reason. There weren't many compromises, if any, made designing this kit. It doesn't feel like there were. Normally you would get people cheaping out and having the same size ball stud everywhere or the same size pivot balls everywhere. When they don't have to be, these have all been designed for purpose, so everything goes where it's supposed to. And I don't think there's a lot of areas where you can actually save any weight or skimp on anything. I think it's all there for a reason. And
there's not much tolerance to probably build it wrong.
No,
I dare say.
No. The manual is actually quite clear. You don't get a manual in the kit. You get a QR code, so it's all online. Well,
we actually developed when we've trended that with the HR1. And that way we can keep live and running updates as the build goes on and the setup changes.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why RC Maker probably hasn't included any oils, lubricants and that for us. So as the setup changes, and if you're running, like the Australian oils are going to be completely different to European oils for that matter.
The other thing is though, I mean, when you buy a kit, you end up getting these tiny little sample pots of grease and tiny little sample pot of shock oil. And it might not be the shock oil you like to run. So why would you use it? Most of the time you'd throw that stuff out and put your own stuff. As a high-end kit.
I think he's doing it, he's doing it from an environmental standpoint.
Everything. I mean, why give you extra stuff that you know
it's going to go in the bin.
These people are not going to use?
That's right.
Like some people like Huddy oil, some people like the XTC stuff.
That's right. It doesn't matter what's written on, what measurement's written on it, 300, but they want to put their own 300 in it.
That's right. But the nice thing, like in the old days with, I think with the old school weights with the 30s, 20s and all that, if you got a 30 low C and a 30 AE, they're different.
That's right.
So you would always try and stick with the same family of weights.
Of oils, that's right.
Oils, yeah. So you knew you were going to go up and you weren't guessing. So same thing with the 300s and Imperial, or the metric stuff.
So just looking here at the front end, and it's beautiful. Even the hex, beautifully done, retained by what looks like, is that like a Teflon O-ring or
carbon fiber?
Carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber.
They used to be.
And he includes a special tool to insert that in as well.
As opposed to just a 4mm driver.
Correct. It's actually a little tool that you push in, and it actually goes right in, and it's just the right size to push it into the spot.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And that just keys straight into the drive shaft?
Yep. Yeah. Yep. The drive shaft's got a little ring on it, and that's where that sort of sits.
Very familiar to Automatics. They've been doing that for years. And once you start doing, like, there's no other reason to engineer anything else, because it's the easiest, most reliable, lightest way to engineer it. I'm looking at the steering block here, and it looks like you've got a retaining screw here on the top. Is that right?
There on the side there? Yeah.
Oops, I've lost it.
It's gone. It's disappeared.
Hang on.
Oh, there it is.
Here it is.
Oh, there it is. Extreme close up. Yeah, so what I've been told is that this is from or similar to the automatics.
This screw right here?
That screw, yeah, and it's used to pinch the bearing in place when you need to, or to actually stiffen up the block, because it pinches those two sides together and gives it a little bit more strength, stops it flexing as much.
And this is CNC machine billet,
yes.
I'm tipping.
Well, I guess so, yeah. It's alloy. It's
alloy,
not, it's not plastic.
No, definitely.
So, yeah.
But it's not cast and then just tied up.
No, I don't think so. I don't think you could custom machine something that's more than that accurate.
Yeah, so the front rockers, again, very familiar now. Good to see that. I'm looking at the plastics, and there's lots of little funny, like you said, how many different kinds of ball cups are there in this kit?
I think there's about 5 different ones. So you've got the one on the outside here, which has got the position for the body stopper.
Yep.
You've got that 45-degree one there.
Yep.
You've got that one, which is a bit different. You've got the ones that go on the steering links, which have the hole through, so you can adjust it, take the screws off and on. And they're used on the camber links as well at the back.
And the rear. And obviously it's all the standard mod cons like toe gain, toe control.
Correct, yep. And you've got spacers on the inside of the bulkhead there. The bulkheads are slightly different front to rear, purely because the rear ones have an extra little position for that to mount to.
Yep.
But I think there wouldn't be much reason you couldn't use the rears on the front either. But
yep, just more material there, I suppose.
Bit just of alloy sitting there.
And I did notice as well that it has included bando belts, which are an option. I don't know included in any other kit at the moment, but it's really good because these are probably the most popular belts going. Are they 351?
They are.
Yep. So very conventional.
Standard size.
Very standard size, what we've been using in 1/10 touring cars for about 10 years, since they went mid-mount.
I think it's good they standardised. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, and we've got the battery hooks here, and these RC Maker does sort of make this sort of hardware for other manufacturers.
Yep, and the geocarbon.
Geocarbon, so it's the CNC milled carbon product.
Makes it lighter and makes it funkier.
Makes it funkier, doesn't it? Adds a funk.
Most of all.
Comes with horizontal body posts.
Yep, out of the box.
Out of the box, and I don't know what else.
Yeah, the bumper that's on there now is not the standard one that you can get.
The standard one in the kit is in fact foam.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that.
In the front wheel drive, it's a 3D printed one with space for extra weights in there.
Yes.
So you can, with the front wheel drive, you need some extra weights on the front normally.
And the front wheel drive would use a lot of the same parts as this.
Yes, a lot of the same parts. The motor mount obviously is different. The upper decks I think are going to be different. They will be different. The arms I believe are the same, but they're oriented differently. So whereas this has the straight part on the front and the rear, the front wheel drive is the other way around.
Okay.
And I think that changes the caster.
What about the steering bell crank?
I'm not sure. I didn't look that far into it.
You haven't built it?
No, I haven't built it. I've been focusing on this one to get it going, but the weather.
Ready for Sunday.
Yeah.
Ready for Sunday.
That looks like the first day out.
So it's not going to have its first outing at the velodrome?
No, definitely not. No. This is for a purpose, and it ain't the velodrome.
Fair enough. Well,
there are other cars for the velodrome.
That is exactly right. Well, I think we've about covered it, haven't we?
There seems to be a lot of room as well on the chassis. Like, I haven't got a fan in here yet, but I mean, that's a lot of real estate in there to play with still.
You still got, so you'll have to put it, you'll have to put a fan, you'll have to put a timing.
Yeah, the transponder, I've left room in here, so that'll sit in there, and then a fan in here, and that's about it.
And I dare say that you'll be adding a lot of weight to this car.
Yeah, I think so. Like, out of the box, it actually comes with 2 molded weights.
Yep.
So in the center line, so you've got that one in here, which I don't know if you can see too much.
And that'll be a
and
flex.
Then there's one over there.
Would that be a flex device as well?
It's actually got a tiny carbon fiber spacer underneath.
Oh, okay.
And that keeps it floating.
Yep.
But there is an option for another 2 screws on the front and on the back weight. So that's the only screw at the moment holding it in.
Yep.
And you can put these 2 in if you want extra or less flex.
Less flex.
You can tune that with a weight in the center. But yeah, I think there is a lot of room for extra weight. Absolutely. So I think there and there.
So you'll be looking forward to doing final assembly over the weekend and getting it on track?
Absolutely. I can't wait. Sunday morning, hopefully.
And that's grand. Probably its first major event for you will be the
Nationals.
2024 Nationals, TFTR.
Yeah.
And you won't be the only one SP1 getting around,
I don't think so. I think the first batch sold out pretty quick.
Yeah.
I was
well,
pretty
especially
lucky
in
to
Australia,
get this.
like it's quite patriotic too, no? Like I'm super proud. I know Ryan personally, and I think he's done amazing things.
For something,
like
for
I
him
said,
to put
it's
this
not
together,
bad. It's not Yokomo. It's not bad.
For him to put this together with all the bits in about a year, roughly, it feels like it's about a year since he's first announced he was starting it.
Yep.
Or doing it. I think he's done an amazing job. Like the manual's fantastic online. I think he's already updated it a couple of times.
Yep.
He's already responded to stuff online pretty quick. He's done well. He's done well. The packaging and everything's pretty good. So yeah,
fantastic.
You can't complain for a first kit. It's
It's really good. Yeah. Well, good luck, Tony. I hope that you enjoy it. Yeah, I can't wait to see it out on track.
Yeah,
that is
me
fantastic.
Too.
Thanks for bringing in and showing us.
No worries.
I am Brett from Hearns, and this is Tony P. And thanks for having a look at the RC Maker SP1.